Hi folks, and welcome to Attega Armory. So some of the recent events that have been going on in the world and in the United States and just in general have led to a huge influx of new shooters coming into the market and first-time gun owners that are going out and realizing that, maybe they need a firearm to protect themselves, to defend their homes, their families, etc. And we also kind of recognize that maybe people might be having a hard time getting the adequate training that they need because, after all, simply having a gun doesn't necessarily make you safe any more than, having a guitar makes you a musician. Basically, you have to know how to use the thing in order to use it effectively and safely, of course. Now, for those of you guys that are experienced shooters, this stuff's probably going to be pretty elementary for you. I mean, it's it's going to be very basic from the viewpoint of targeting brand new shooters that have maybe never shot a gun before. And with that, if you are an experienced shooter, feel free to share this video with somebody that you know that is just getting into firearms, and hopefully this will help them along the way and kind of give them a jump start. So stay tuned for more of these types of videos in the near future. Also, remember to keep those firearms running clean and smooth with a bottle of our Attega Armory citrus-powered synthetic CLP. You can find out more by visiting us at attegaarmory.com. Now, let's jump to it. So today we're going to be demonstrating the loading and unloading procedure using a Glock Model 19. This is a 9mm Luger, and we're going to be using some fake practice ammo here, as you can tell by the color. Now, before you get started, just make sure you familiarize yourself with the controls on your particular gun. Things like the magazine release here, the slide stop and slide release that will lock our slide back into this position. Things like that. Just make sure that you know where your controls are at, and you can always refer to the firearm owner's manual for specifics on your particular model. Now, I am going to be starting off with an unloaded firearm, and this particular condition that it's in right now is the only condition that I consider a gun to be truly unloaded, where I can trust and know for a fact that this gun is unloaded and incapable of firing. And that condition entails the magazine being out and the slide being locked open like this, so that I can see right down into the firing chamber that there is no round in there. Okay, now this is clear, and this is the condition that it needs to be in before you go down range when you're at the shooting range. And the way that I would get it into that position, there's really two ways to get it into that condition. Now, if I'm shooting and I run out of ammunition, actually this magazine follower right here will engage my slide stop, and it will lock that open after I've shot the last round. So here we've got an empty magazine, and when that round fires, goes bang, slide goes back, gets locked open right there. Okay, so that little that slide stop just engages on the slide because the magazine follower pushed it up. Then of course you simply drop that magazine, and now you are clear. So that's the first way to get into that position. Second way to get into that position is if you do not have a magazine in there. Let's say you're at a gun shop or somebody's showing you a gun and they hand you a gun in this condition. There's no magazine in there, but you're not sure if it's clear or not because you can't see into the firing chamber. And basically from here, what you would do is you actually need to pull the slide back manually with your hand while you use your thumb to push your slide stop upward and lock it in place. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like right there. And once again, magazine is out and firing chamber is empty, so this gun is clear. And once again, this is the only way that I can trust that this gun is truly unloaded. Beyond this condition or being completely disassembled, say for cleaning, this is the only way that I will know. And it doesn't matter who tells you what. It doesn't matter if somebody says, oh yeah, I checked it myself. Always, always, always check and verify. And of course, always treat every gun as if it were loaded. And then you really will avoid a whole lot of problems. So when I'm at the shooting range, this is how I'm going to leave my gun when I'm actually coming off the bench and heading down range. So I've got it facing in a direction where I can see into the chamber. You know, it's not this way so that I have no visibility. I've got the open end of the chamber pointing upward so I can see into it. Now this is the condition that we're going to practice loading from today. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand which direction your ammo needs to go into. I know this might seem a little simplistic, but it can be a little tricky sometimes if you've never done this before. The best way to recognize it is by looking at your cartridge, at your ammo, and you can see here that the back of it has a flat surface, okay? And that flat surface is going to correspond with the flat surface on the back of your magazine. And that's the case with most pistol magazines. You can see that the front is just a little bit curved, a little bit rounded. The back is pretty much straight up flat like that, okay? And when you're loading this thing, I like to load with my strong hand. I'm right-handed, and I kind of like to hold it just like this so that my thumb can push the rounds down right here, and I support with my left hand, which is going to be kind of feeding rounds in. And what I'm doing is I'm starting with the cartridge rim right about at the end of these little feed lips. These little feed lips are what kind of hold that round in place. I want to start right at the front end of those, just like that, and I'm going to just press down with my thumb, and I'm going to pull back till it seats all the way up against the back of that magazine, just like that. And I'm going to repeat the same thing over again, lining it up right at about the front of those feed lips, pressing down and pulling back. One more time, lining it up at the front of those feed lips, pressing down and pulling back, just like that. So some guns come with these little speed loader / loading assistants. You can also buy these in the aftermarket. These are pretty helpful, especially with, I got to admit, with Glocks, they've got some pretty tough springs. And once you get down to that last round or two, it can be pretty tough. I mean, it takes a fair amount of thumb strength to really compress that spring and get it to load. So let me show you how these work. I like to just set my magazine on some kind of a flat surface, and you'll have to load in at least one round manually, particularly with this Glock type loader. You just need to put the first round in with your thumb like I showed you, and then from there you can just kind of slide this right over the top, just like that. I'm going to grab this speed loader with my strong hand, and you can see here that if I push down on it, it compresses those rounds down into the magazine. See that? And what I have to do is with my supporting hand, so once I compress it down, I just feed that round into the feed lips as far as I can, just like this, and then I have to let up on the speed loader and then continue to press it back, just like that. So hopefully you guys were able to see that okay. Let me show you one more time. So I'm pushing down, inserting it just to where it grabs the feed lips. Then I lift it up. Then I lift the speed loader up to where the case rim clears this little push part. And then I just finish sliding it back in. Now, quick little side note. A lot of people are always asking me why I wear gloves in these videos. Well, I got a lot of reasons why I wear gloves in these videos. But let me tell you why I wear gloves when I'm loading my defensive handguns, especially the defensive ones that I'm going to keep loaded all the time or that I'm going to carry with me. So the main reason for that is because I want to keep my fingerprints off of these casings. Think about it. I mean, if you've got a concealed carry gun that you've got fingerprints all over these casings and, let's say that gun gets stolen. Let's say that gun gets used in a crime. Now, all of a sudden, hey, you might have shell casings with your fingerprints at a crime scene. And, that's just one less thing that I really want to have to deal with in that kind of circumstance. One less thing that I'm going to have to explain. So I like to keep my fingerprints off of the ammo that's in my guns. Beyond that, of course, the oils in your fingers are kind of salty, and they can be slightly corrosive and, can tarnish ammo over time. It's not a huge deal. Obviously, it's not like going to eat holes in it or anything. You don't ever want to use any kind of cleaners, oils, lubricants. Even those silicone type gun cloths can really have adverse effects on your ammunition. So I would just recommend just keep them clean to begin with. Open the box with gloves on. Keep those fingerprints off your ammo. And that's just one less thing that you're going to have to worry about. All right, so when it's time to do some loading, we're going to pretend like that direction is downrange for now, even though I'm at the workbench. Now, if the range safety officer has ensured that the range is clear and they give you the instruction that the range is hot and that you can commence firing, you're going to want to hold the gun with your index finger, your trigger finger off the trigger at all times. And with your hand in that position, you want to turn slightly sideways, just like this, always keeping it pointed downrange and in a safe direction. Now with my supporting hand, I like to grip the magazine like this. The reason why I like to grip it like this is because I can feel, I've got this nice tactile feel of these hard edges right here. So I know where the back of the magazine is, and I also can feel, if I need to, the tip of that nice round bullet right there. So I know where the front of the magazine is. So this, if I have to do this reload real quickly in the dark without being able to see or without looking or anything like that, I know for sure just by feel that this magazine is facing the right direction. And of course, I want to tilt my gun ever so slightly toward my supporting hand, and I'm going to just press that magazine up in there and firmly lock that in place. Now you can see from the top that we've got that first round just hanging out there at the top of the magazine. What I need to do next is I need to drop my slide. I need to let it slide forward and strip that round off the magazine and place it into the firing chamber straight in front. There's two ways to do that. The first way is to use your thumb and depress the slide release right here. And you can see here that it did in fact chamber that round. Now the second way to chamber that round is to actually use your supporting hand and kind of slingshot the slide back and release it to let it go forward. So there is a common mistake that I've seen some new shooters do, and actually some experienced shooters do, and I've definitely seen a lot of it on Hollywood movies where they don't know what they're doing. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'll pull the mag out for just a sec. That's when they pull it back and they follow it forward with their hand. So you've seen it like the notorious Hollywood move. Okay, that is not the way to load a firearm. Let me show you. The reason for that is that you need that spring pressure, that recoil spring that's inside of here. You need that full spring pressure to blast that round forward. If you follow it forward with your hand like that, it can actually lead to feeding failures. Not all the time, but definitely sometimes. A more reliable way to load in this manner is to actually pull the slide back and release it forward, and you're letting your hand continue backwards so that you have no chance of inhibiting that spring in any way. So let me show you that one more time. Now, this gun is ready to fire. It's hot. We have got a loaded magazine inserted, and we have a round in the chamber. So now all I have to do is point it at my target and squeeze that trigger. Now, after I've fired all of these rounds, say at a firing range, my slide is going to lock itself open. So from this point, it's pretty straightforward. All I need to do to make sure this gun is unloaded is to just remove my magazine, and now I am all clear. I can see here that I've got no rounds in that chamber. This gun is unloaded. But let's say for a minute that we did not expend our rounds. Let's say that we loaded this thing to carry it for self-defense. And let's say that we want to unload it so that we can disassemble it and clean it. Well, if I've got a magazine in there with rounds and I close that slide and I chamber a round, well, let me ask you this. If I pull this magazine out now, is this gun unloaded? Absolutely not, right? We still have a round in the firing chamber, and this is the critical one right here, okay? A magazine full of ammo can't hurt you, but one single round in that firing chamber, that's the one that matters. So I've got to make sure that that is clear and locked open, and there's that round that just popped out, and now we are unloaded. And one quick little side note, you'll find there's a lot of debate and discussion and different opinions as to whether people are comfortable with carrying their gun with a round loaded in the chamber. And look, you know, that's a personal choice for you and for what you're comfortable with. For me, I always carry with a round in the chamber because, you know, things happen quickly. I really don't want to have to think about it. That's just one less thing that I have to deal with when the split seconds count. And of course, you know, this Glock, as well as every Glock and most modern defensive handguns, are specifically designed to be safely carried with a round loaded in the chamber. Even though there's no external safety, there are multiple internal safeties. But you do have to bear in mind that those safeties are all tied to the trigger. So, you know, I could throw this thing off a building with a round loaded in the chamber. As long as I don't squeeze that trigger, it's not going to fire. So one critical element is to make sure and use a proper holster, because, you know, hey, everything is tied to that trigger. You don't want something accidentally getting in there and squeezing that trigger and causing you a problem. There you have it, folks. Now you know how to load and unload your semi-automatic firearm in a safe and effective manner. And we hope you enjoyed this video today, folks. Please leave us a comment and let us know if there's any other subjects that you'd like us to cover. And we'll see you again next time at Attica Armory.